Welcome to Deep Dive by the Quiet Footnote. Today we're plunging into a book that promises more than just surface-level advice. John Demartini's The Value Factor. And this isn't your typical self-help read, really. It's a deep exploration into how we fundamentally perceive our lives, our goals, even our sense of purpose. Our mission today is to unpack Demartini's core message, try to understand why it's resonated with so many, and crucially, how it speaks directly to the challenges, you might be facing right now. And I can tell you, this book really challenges a lot of the conventional wisdom we've all kind of grown up with. It demands a level of self-honesty that can be confronting, but ultimately incredibly freeing. It might just be the clarity we need in a world that often feels, overwhelmed and confusing.
Yeah, exactly. What Demartini really aims his focus at is this pervasive human contradiction. He observes this gap. We often express a desire for fulfillment, purpose, success, right? Yet for many, our lives are constructed around what he terms borrowed values. These aren't necessarily our own deep-seated desires, but more like a collection of societal norms, parental expectations, or even those, carefully curated ideals we see constantly on social media. The fundamental issue he's highlighting is a misalignment of values and goals. That's the core. When you set goals based on what you think you should want rather than what truly drives you deep down, it inevitably leads to these cycles of procrastination, frustration, and that persistent, nagging sense of emptiness.
So it's like we're all playing roles in a play someone else wrote for us, often without even realizing we've memorized their lines. But Demartini argues something quite counterintuitive, that our lives are already a reflection of our highest values. How does he explain that? Especially for those of us who might feel completely out of sync.
Right, and that's where his approach gets, truly surgical. He suggests that whether you're conscious of it or not, your life's structure, where your time goes, what you spend money on, what occupies your thoughts, is a direct manifestation of your deepest values. True fulfillment, then, isn't about chasing some external, idealized version of yourself. No, it's about bringing your conscious awareness in line with what your actions are already demonstrating. It's a call to observe your life rather than just narrate it with shoulds.
So his method isn't about just flapping on a new layer of motivation or positive thinking. It sounds more like an excavation, really.
Exactly.
He's cutting through the illusions we build for ourselves.
Precisely. He's less interested in what you claim to value and far more interested in what your life demonstrates you value. His guiding question is incredibly direct. What do you genuinely value at the core of your being, and how can you structure your life so every decision, goal, and action aligns with it? It's a profound shift from, seeking external validation or chasing fleeting passions to finding deep internal congruence. That's the goal.
Okay, after understanding that core problem, I hear Demartini isn't afraid to challenge some really deeply held beliefs. It sounds like he takes a bit of a wrecking ball to some of our most comforting, yet often misleading ideas about how life should work. So what are some of those common feel-good slogans he systematically dismantles? Get ready, because some of these might feel uncomfortably familiar.
Oh, he absolutely does. And each of his counterarguments offers a powerful, sometimes, jarring shift in perspective. First up, there's myth one. Passion equals purpose. We're constantly told, follow your passion and purpose will follow. But Demartini says, hold on a sec. He argues that passions can be fleeting emotional highs, that bursts of excitement for a new hobby or a sudden interest. But true values, he insists, are deeper, quieter, and far more durable. They are observable in your consistent actions. Are you really passionate about that side hustle you talk about? Or just like the idea of it, where does your actual time and money go day in and day out? Purpose, he contends, doesn't emerge from chasing every single passion, but from aligning with these deeper, more enduring values that your life already proves you have.
That's interesting. So it's less about the fireworks, more about the slow burn.
Exactly. Then there's myth two. Everyone values the same things. This is the idea that universal values like, say, family, health, or honesty should be at the top of everyone's list. Demartini challenges this directly. He states that this is largely social conditioning. We just internalize what society expects, right? Each person has a unique, often subconscious hierarchy of values. And fulfillment comes from honoring your own unique hierarchy, even if it doesn't look socially acceptable or conform to what others expect of you. It's about owning your truth.
Okay, that makes sense.
And a really big one, especially today, is myth three. Stress is bad and should be avoided. We're conditioned to fight stress, numb it, run from it. Demartini flips this entirely. He argues that stress, procrastination, even illness aren't failures. They're powerful feedback systems. They're signals. When you feel overwhelmed or you find yourself constantly putting something off, it's often your body or mind telling you that you're living out of alignment with your highest values. Instead of resisting or suppressing them, he encourages you to actually listen to what they're pointing to.
Wow, okay, so stress isn't the enemy, it's more like a messenger.
A messenger, yeah, exactly. And this next one resonates with so many. Myth 4. Money is for the lucky, privileged, or gifted. Many people attribute financial success to external factors, right? Luck, connections. Demartini asserts that sustained financial freedom and wealth mastery only come if building and managing money is genuinely one of your top values. If, for example, your highest value is, adventure and spontaneity, you might unconsciously resist saving or investing. Makes sense. If it's not a top value, you'll likely sabotage wealth accumulation. And he says that's perfectly okay, but you need to stop pretending otherwise and just own your true priorities.
That's quite direct. No judgment, just honesty.
Very direct. In relationships, he tackles myth 5. Love means sacrifice or compromise. Conventional wisdom often suggests we have to, give up parts of ourselves for love. Demartini's counter is that real love is value translation. It means framing your needs and actions in terms of your partner's highest values. You don't abandon your values, you find ways to bridge them. Remember that example. If you value adventure and your partner values security.
Right, you frame the trip differently.
Exactly. You don't force them to skydive. You might frame an exciting trip as building secure, cherished memories together. It enriches the connection by speaking a language they understand and value.
That requires a lot more conscious effort than just compromising, doesn't it?
It does. Finally, he addresses myth 6. Legacy is about being remembered by others or achieving fame. In a world obsessed with impact and recognition, Demartini offers a different perspective. He says legacy is about living so aligned to your values that your life itself is its own immortal vision, whether the world notices your efforts or not. It's an internal measure of a life well lived, not an external one.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. And it really forces you to question your assumptions. I think many of us have subconsciously bought into at least some of these myths, whether it's, chasing a passion that fizzles out or feeling guilty about not valuing something society tells us we should. So all those years I spent trying to convince myself I should love networking events when, honestly, all I really valued was an extra hour of deep work. That was probably just me operating on a borrowed value. But I wonder, does Demartini address the potential for someone to discover their highest values are, shall we say, less than socially acceptable? How do you navigate that?
Oh, he absolutely does, and it's a crucial point. Demartini is pretty unapologetic about owning your true values, whatever they happen to be. He would argue that the perceived social unacceptability is often just another layer of borrowed values itself. The discomfort isn't really in your authentic value, but in the internal conflict between your truth and what you've been told to believe, right? He would say the liberation comes from recognizing and owning that truth, even if it means living differently from others. The real failure, he'd argue, is to live out of alignment with yourself, not living someone else's idea of a good life.
That's a powerful and, slightly uncomfortable truth. Okay, so if dismantling those myths wasn't enough, Demartini then introduces some truly revolutionary concepts. Which of these insights resonated most powerfully with you? The ones that really hit you like a lightning strike and challenged your conventional wisdom?
Yeah, several insights really stand out as game changers. One of the most impactful is what Demartini calls the brutal honesty test. He provides this 13-question exercise designed to help you identify your true values by looking at where you actually spend your time, money, and attention. Not where you say you do. You say you value family, but your calendar and bank statements might scream workaholic or maybe social media addict. That's the devastating clarity Demartini delivers. It's like a mirror reflecting your true priorities, whether you like them or not. It flips values from being these lofty ideals into hard, observable data about how you live. You simply can't dodge it.
Oof. Brutal is the right word.
It is. Another counterintuitive yet profoundly impactful insight is linking pain to value. Demartini argues that stress, procrastination, even illness aren't failures. They're signals of misalignment. Instead of hating these signals, you're encouraged to reframe them as a compass. They're telling you, okay, what am I doing that isn't congruent with who I really am? This reframing alone can entirely change how you deal with challenges, turning discomfort into valuable feedback. I've seen so many people have that aha moment, often with a groan of, oh, that's why I keep procrastinating on my budget. It's a common human puzzle.
Turning pain into a guidepost, that's different.
Very different. Then there's the relationship lens. His idea that deep relationships thrive when partners' value translate is immensely powerful. It's not about sacrificing for love, remember, but about speaking in the currency the other person values most. We used that adventure and security example earlier.
Right, the conscious alignment.
Yes, it's about intelligent, conscious alignment, not just compromise or giving in. His stance on financial freedom as a value choice is also pretty revolutionary. Demartini unapologetically states that if wealth building isn't genuinely one of your top values, you probably won't sustain it. You'll unconsciously sabotage financial efforts. And he says that's okay, but you must stop fooling yourself about it. This rethinks money not as this universal should, but as a deliberate choice, urging you to be honest about your financial priorities.
So own it if it's not your top thing.
Exactly. And finally, the concept of immortal vision resonated deeply with me. The book's closing vision is about living so aligned with your values that your life itself becomes a legacy. It's not about chasing fame or impact metrics, but about being an immortal echo of what mattered most to you. This reframes legacy from what others remember to how fully you lived your authentic truth, regardless of external validation.
Those insights are incredibly powerful. Yeah, this deep dive into Demartini's work really forced me to reflect on my own assumptions, too. I found myself realizing how often I'd mistaken what I thought I should value for what truly drove me. Like, for instance, I used to claim health was paramount, but looking at my actions, maybe learning and creating was the true engine, with health simply enabling that. Or I'd say I valued money when what I truly valued was the freedom and experiences that money could, facilitate. It's uncomfortable to confront, but profoundly liberating once you embrace it.
And that's a deeper truth sort of beneath the Demartini's explicit words, isn't it? It's this quiet revelation. Fulfillment is self-honesty. The courage to live by your true values, even if it breaks conventions, might just be the most rebellious act in today's world. He's essentially telling us that you are already living your truth, often unconsciously. The goal isn't to become someone new, but to stop performing for others and start aligning with who you already are.
That revelation leads us perfectly to our next point, then. If Demartini's message felt powerful when the book was written, why is it even more urgent in today's, let's face it, noise-drenched, constantly connected world? Has his framework ever been critiqued for, say, being too individualistic or maybe not accounting for the sheer pressure of external forces in modern life?
That's a really astute question, and it's precisely where Demartini's work gains even more profound relevance today, I think. While some might critique it as individualistic, I think Demartini would argue that true individualism rooted in authentic values is perhaps the only way to withstand those overwhelming external pressures. If he were to update the value factor for, say, 2025, he would undoubtedly emphasize how modern forces just exacerbate this whole problem of borrowed values.
How so?
Well, he'd definitely speak to the epidemic of borrowed lives. In an era of constant comparison overload, Instagram ideals, LinkedIn hustle culture, curated lives everywhere, Demartini's insistence on uncovering your authentic values acts as a kind of critical vaccine against digital envy. We're constantly bombarded with what we should be doing, having, looking like. Without a strong internal compass, it's so easy to get lost.
A vaccine, I like that analogy.
Yeah. And he'd certainly address burnout as a modern plague. His reframing of stress as feedback is incredibly medicinal for today's skyrocketing burnout rates, the whole quiet quitting phenomenon, the widespread mental health crises. Instead of just numbing the symptoms, he'd urge us to listen to what our bodies and minds are telling us about misalignment, which is often caused by trying to live up to those borrowed ideals.
Makes sense. What else?
He'd probably introduce a whole new section on digital distraction and attention as a value. Think about it. With constant scrolling, notifications, algorithms, expertly hijacking our attention, he'd likely introduce a digital values audit. He'd challenge us to check where our attention truly goes online, recognizing that attention is the modern currency of what we value. If your highest value is learning, but your attention audit shows hours spent on, say, entertainment streaming, well, there's a disconnect, right?
Yeah, that's confronting.
And given the rapid changes, he'd probably expand on AI, work, and human value creation. With AI reshaping industries, automating tasks, Demartini would emphasize that aligning with your highest values is the only way to remain adaptable, innovative, truly irreplaceable. Work done from a place of deep, authentic value becomes purpose-driven and arguably future-proofed against automation. It becomes uniquely human.
That's a hopeful spin on the AI discussion.
It can be. And in a swiping world, his insights on relationships would be crucial. His value translation method becomes almost a survival skill for fostering authentic connection in a landscape often characterized by dating apps, ghosting, and increasingly shallow ties. It pushes for depth and understanding over just fleeting interactions.
So going deeper instead of wider.
Exactly. And finally, he'd likely address legacy beyond the algorithm. In a world obsessed with virality, metrics being remembered online, Demartini's call to build an immortal vision by living your deepest truth consistently would be an anchor to permanence. A reminder that true legacy transcends fleeting digital trends.
So Demartini's work isn't just another self-help book. It really becomes, like you said, a kind of survival manual for staying sane and sovereign in 2025. It's about protecting your authentic values against these powerful modern forces trying to hijack them. From algorithms and AI to hustle culture and comparison traps, it's about self-preservation in the best possible sense. Okay, so what does this all mean for you, our listener? If you could only walk away with, say, 5 key insights, what would be the most important portable wisdom from the value factor?
All right, let's boil it down. Here are the 5 core principles Demartini really hopes every reader will internalize and ideally live by. First, your life already reveals your values. Forget what you think you should value for a second. Look at where your time, energy, and money genuinely go. That's your true, observable hierarchy, not what society applauds or what you wish were true.
Brutal honesty again.
Always. Second, alignment equals fulfillment. The closer your daily actions and long-term goals match your highest authentic values, the more energy, resilience, and profound meaning you'll naturally feel. It's a direct correlation. Simple, but not easy. Third, stress is feedback, not failure. Procrastination, burnout, or even physical illness often signal that you're living by borrowed values, or that your actions are just out of sync with your true self. Instead of fighting these signals, learn to listen to what they're pointing you towards.
The messenger, not the monster.
Exactly. Fourth, own your true values without apology. Whether your highest values are wealth, creativity, family, freedom, knowledge, or something else entirely, stop pretending. Authenticity begins when you drop the shoulds and wholeheartedly embrace your real intrinsic drivers. And fifth, legacy is living fully now. Immortality isn't about being famous or remembered by millions or achieving some external recognition. It's about embodying your values so fully and consistently that your life itself becomes the message, a testament to your authentic truth, regardless of who is watching.
Living your message, I like that.
And if there's one unheard whisper that truly encapsulates Demartini's message, maybe it's this: you are already living your truth, even if you don't admit it. So stop lying to yourself, stop apologizing, and stop borrowing your life from others. Your fulfillment is not something out there to chase. It's something to align with right now where you are.
Wow. Okay, a final thought then, something provocative for you to mull over. Imagine if, just for today, you stopped asking what you should value and instead looked honestly, really honestly, at what you actually prioritize with your actions, your time, your attention. What might that reveal about your true north?
And maybe as a practical step, take a moment today to simply observe where your energy naturally flows. Which activities do you just gravitate towards without conscious effort? Which conversations energize you? Even that simple observation can be the first step in exploring your own authentic values hierarchy. Start there.